This video is going to show some of the dollar comics that I bought recently at a local comic shop. All but one of this stack was purchased for $1. Well, there's nothing fantastic in them, but I just thought I would share my haul. The first one here, Dazzler number 7 from, I believe, 1981. We'll look in a minute here. I had actually bought that comic when it came out, when I was like 10 years old, because I bought Dazzler occasionally back then. And eventually I get rid of my Dazzler comics like a few years ago, maybe about 5 years ago. But I kept finding Dazzler, and if you've seen my previous videos, I've kept finding Dazzler comics in their dollar boxes. And this one I didn't buy for the longest time, for the past few months, because it had some, here I'll open it up, it had some sort of tape, or not tape ripple, page ripple up near the top there, you can probably see. There's a little bit of ripple there that isn't too appealing. That I thought, well, maybe I'll just wait till I get a better copy. But finally, this is September 1981. So yeah, like I said, I was 10 when this came out. And anyways, though, the cover is so cool that I thought, you know what, I might as well just buy it, because with these kind of comics, when they have cool covers, speculators now will sometimes just buy the comics just for the covers, and then it doesn't show up in the dollar box because a whole bunch of collector type folks are buying them up. Anyways, there's another comic here which I'm going to spend a little bit of time on. I'd never heard of Walt Disney's Scamp before. This was actually issue number 43 or 44. Sorry to read there. 44 from November 1978. Never heard of Scamp before, which isn't that unusual. I'm not a huge Disney fan. But this cover just looks so cute. The dog getting splashed by the birds in the fountain. And so I thought, well, I'll go ahead and buy this. It's only $1. And anyways, I read the whole comic and I thought, this is really charming. Now, it's a combination of new stories, and there's like 2 reprinted stories. I like the newer stories better. I like the artwork on it. It's a little, probably a little more cutesier than the older art. But it turns out Scamp is the son of Lady and the Tramp, which I did not know. So we'll show some of the, just his expressions are very cute. Apparently the comic started in the 1950s, mid-50s, and then it was also a newspaper strip as well. But here's another one that I believe is a news story. And then over here you have a story that's a reprint from either, I think, the late 50s, early 60s, something like that. The art style is a little different. You can just tell, Scamp doesn't look the same as he did in these other ones. And I don't like that art style as well. I mean, it's okay, but it doesn't have the same cutesy type of look to it. I mean, it's a little cute, but it doesn't have the sort of art of the other style. See, this is you can tell now, this is the newer, it's much bigger panels, and so forth. This is a cute story, the Lost Kittens, where he helps, there's 2 little lost kittens that have lost their home. By the way, here's another panel from the older story. Again, you can see it has a less, has more like a impressionistic look to it. But anyways, oh, here's an ad for Flash Gordon. And here's another, there's a 1-page reprint of a older Scamp story. And this has some, a tear on there. So that was, I'd seen this the first time I went to this, not the first time, but the a couple weeks ago, I'd seen this at the comic shop, and I thought, well, it's cool, but I don't want to get it because it's all damaged. But then after a while, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to buy it. I only have one of these Dynamite Bright books that are being advertised here. I have one of the Star Trek ones. that I had also gotten at a dollar box. But they're really cool. They're printed on better paper, sort of a 1970s version of the Baxter, paper of the 1980s. I got a lot of Archie comics here. This is Madhouse Comics, which was a humor anthology series that it's too bad Archie didn't do more of, because it's a non-Archie. It's sort of a Mad magazine for, kids who are a little too young for Mad magazine. So, I mean, it's not that funny. Some of the humor is a little misogynistic, in fact. You can tell men wrote it. This was a kind of funny story about a superhero trying to try out for the Olympic shtick with his butler. It was an ad for a Best of Archie book. But anyways, even though it's not that funny, it is unusual enough to make me want to get more of them. And it's kind of funny that I never at the time noticed Madhouse Comics. When these came out. This is from 1981. Again, the same time as that Dazzler comic. I was buying Dazzler. I ignored this. I had no interest back then. But, a few years later, I would have been, a regular buyer, I would think. Josie and the Pussycats. This one, I think, is also probably for 81. Let's take a look. Yes, October 81. This is one of the later issues, because Josie and the Pussycats eventually got canceled, and the issues went into the Archie Giant series magazine, which we'll take a look at it here in a second. But yeah, I recently started watching the Josie and the Pussycats cartoon, and just really dug it. And so now I'm more interested in Josie and the Pussycats than I was before. It has a Dan DiCarlo story to start off, and then some Stan Goldberg stories after that. Anyways, and then, now this one I didn't get. I got this at a different comic shop. This is the only one of the ones shown here that I bought at another comic shop for, full price, I guess. It was cheap though. It was in their regular back issue section for $2.50. This came out, I think, in 1987. The funny thing is, back in the 80s, I never bought a single issue of Josie and the Pussycats, ever. Probably because I never saw them. Yeah, it was September 1987. Archie Giant Series magazine had a weird numbering system. They kind of skipped a lot of numbers. This is issue number 571. Anyways, it's a pretty cool issue, which I read recently when I bought it. Don't miss the all-new Jughead number 1. I had no idea Jughead had gotten... Jughead, Betty and Veronica, and Laugh all got renumbered during this period, 1987. Here's another issue of Archie Giant Series magazine. This is issue 251, which I bought for $1. Now, the thing is, I already had this issue, but as I was looking through the boxes, I was like, you know what, I'm going to upgrade. Because this is the issue that I've had since 1980, probably 81 or 80. What happened was my younger sister was I was trying to get my younger sister interested in reading comics and collecting comics. I was like 10 years old, and, she was like 2 years younger. So, a friend had some Archie comics and stuff like that, so I thought, oh, I'll get them. Of course, they ended up in my collection because I enjoyed them. But this was from 1976. And so this was a back issue even when I bought it. Or I didn't buy it, someone gave it to me. But I've had this for years and really enjoyed it, actually. And so when I saw this one in the dollar box, in fact, you can compare this one has like tears and stuff, and it's really worn. You compare the page edges there. So when I saw this one right here in the dollar box, I was like, I knew mine wasn't in as nice condition. So I was like, I'm just going to buy this one and get rid of the other one. And there's another comic in the stack that's the same thing. I recently started getting Archie's TV Laugh Out because it also has Josie and the Pussycat stories in it, as well as Sabrina, the Teenage Witch, and the Archies as well. I held off on getting this one for a while. I kept seeing it in that dollar box because it's kind of rough condition. But then after a while, I thought, you know what? I'm just gonna get it because you never know if you're gonna see it again. So there's the Josie story in this one. Anyways, and then that was issue number 26. This is issue number 57, which is in a little better condition. I mean, not great condition, but there's some wear there and some little damage. But it was better than the other condition, the other comics condition. There's the statement of ownership. I know some people like those to look at the circulation of, what was the circulation of the comics back then. So this one is, well, it's hard to say, 309,000. Of course, a lot of them were just thrown away. Any unsold copies were thrown out. And here's an Archie's Pails and Gales. This is a nice copy. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's better than I would have expected from a 1973 comic in the dollar bins. This is like thicker than normal. A giant issue. So Archie's Pails and Gales. Now here's issue number 109, and again, this was a case of an issue that I already had a copy of it. But when I looked, and it's the same thing, I got it at the same time as that Jughead one that I showed earlier. And again, I knew, look, you can see this one has the wear, this is the old one, and this is the new one. The old one at the top, the new one at the... So I had really enjoyed this comic too. So I was like, oh, I can upgrade, get a better copy of it. And here's another Archie's Pails and Gales. That one was 109. This one is 115 from 1977. And another Archie's Pails and Gales, 159. I liked when they had this kind of border. If you ever notice, Archie Comics basically they had a similar cover format in the 70s to EC Comics. Where they have that top, section, that square, have the thing along the side. EC would say horror or whatever. Archie says Archie's series. And then, but briefly, around 1982, I think this probably is. Yeah, 1982. With a story and art by Bob Bowling, actually, in this issue. They had this kind of cool, it almost reminds me of some of the 50s type stuff where, the different characters displayed on the cover. See if there's any other a Betty story, a Chuck Clayton story. Anyway, so, and then there's an issue of Laugh. Let's open this up. I think this is probably from about 1969 or 70, something like that. Maybe 71. It's a 15 center. It does have a little fold there, but otherwise looks pretty decent. Oh, 1971. You'll see Betty is looking very fashionable. The Archies. An ad for one of their other issues. A little Jinx story. And finally a Dilton story. Dilton Doily. Alright, and that's it for the Archie ones. And then we have some Harvey Comics here. Just 3 comics left here to go through. Little Dotland and Little Lotta. Little Dot and Little Lotta are actually probably my 2 favorite Harvey characters. They're just so much more fun, I think, than Richie Rich would probably be my 3rd favorite, and then Casper and Spooky Hot Stuff are actually below that. For some reason, I don't know. This was a really funny story where Little Dot's dad is like I'm trying to impress the kids at Lil Dot's party, and he's just ruining everything for her. Just the way he's drawn, the way he flumps into the chair and everything is really funny. This Richie Rich story looks like Ernie Colan. Anyway, so that's Little Dot Land and then Little Lotta. This is from 1973. Not the best condition, but how can you pass up a Little Lotta comic in a dollar bin? And finally here, as an issue of Millie the Model, when it says queen size special, it actually means annual, because the Marvel, in the late 60s and stuff, they call their annuals specials. So Millie the Model Annual number 10 from 1971, it looks like. And these are all reprints of some of the later Millie the Model issues by Stan Lee and Stan Goldberg. At least it's credited to Stan Goldberg. It doesn't look like Stan Goldberg's art to me. It doesn't look very good, actually. Stan Goldberg's usually better than this. Maybe he penciled it and somebody else inked it. There's Arnold Schwarzenegger. But yeah, by Stan Lee. And these, I think, are from like 1969, the original issues. But yeah, you can kind of tell if you compare it to the Archie stuff that we just looked at. It's not as sharp looking. Kind of looks a little more amateurish in a way. But anyways, but it was only $1, so I thought I'd get it. Anyways, that's my latest comics haul. Thanks for watching.